Hi there. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how you can scrape data from the web using Python, BeautifulSoup, Panda data frames, and Selenium. There's many reasons why you might need to generate a data set from the web. For instance, in my use case for today, I'm going to be gathering a list of images related to the nativity, because I want to create an AI model that is able to do object detection. And I think I found the perfect website to demonstrate how you can scrape a website. In this case, I'm talking about the Vatican website, which has an archive of all the paintings they've put online. Actually, I don't think it's all the paintings they have, but they've put a few of their paintings here. This website, the way it's designed, uses JavaScript to do the search, so it's not straightforward to just use static scraping. I need to use Selenium to be able to do the search and then gather the information from the search. I'm going to do a quick search on the Vatican website. So basically, any images where you can see baby Jesus, his mother, and Saint Joseph. It doesn't always have to be exactly the same. As long as you have baby Jesus and his mother, I'm going to consider that as a painting about the nativity. So that the goal of doing this is so I can create an AI model that is capable of identifying if a particular painting is about the nativity or not. Believe it or not, there's a huge number of paintings done about this very topic, so it's quite interesting. I mean, there's so many paintings, right? So, but the problem is, I found on the internet, I didn't find any existing data set that tells you, okay, these images are about the nativity. So there is no existing data sets, which means I have to create my own data set from a table like this and put that into a Panda data frame, which then I can use later on to basically further refine the data set. You can see here that some of the results that we're getting are not really what I want. I only want paintings, and some of the results here are showing us sculptures and so on. So, and to be honest, there's not that many results here. So there's only 35. So I could have done this by hand. So in fact, you should always go for that. If you only have 35 links, you could just do it by hand. But I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can scrape a website because sometimes you have hundreds and hundreds of images, so you have too much data that it's impossible to do it by hand. And honestly, what's better than an excuse to do some scripting? So let's get started. So as you can see, I've done a search here. Yeah. So I can see a list of results. So I need to try and make this happen. I'm going to be using Google Colab. The first thing I want to do is install Webdriver. So I found a shortcut that actually allows me to just do a very quick setup on Google Colab. I've already installed Selenium, so let's just open the page itself. I'll get the URL, and then I'll do wd save screenshot. So let's see. So screenshot, you can see that the page opens up in the browser, and I can already try to enter the search term. So let's do that. To enter the search term, I just have to get an element from the browser. So I need to find element. So I don't know what the element is, so I need to, let's go back to this. So I need to add my search term here. Yeah. And what I need to do is I need to figure out what element is this. So I have a class name which I could use, or I can use an ID as well, which is normally unique. A class name can be repeated, an ID is always going to be unique. So let's do that. Okay. So I get the element, and then I basically set the text to whatever search term I want to do. So search field dot send keys. Yeah, so basically I just send the actual search term here, and it will type it into the browser. Natività is nativity in Italian. And what we can do always, we can always check with a screenshot whether it's actually working. Yeah, you can see here. You can see that basically it's entering the search term. Okay, so let's go one step further. So the next thing I need to do is to click on this button here. Like, this is the search button, so I need to figure out which link I need to click. So the link is basically, so the link is this URL. There's a bunch of JavaScript that it calls. All I need to know is what ID is. So I found here an ID. I'm going to copy that ID. Okay, so it's there. And I'm going to use it. So I need to do a search field. No, not that, sorry. WD find element by ID. Yeah. So I get the search button and then I click on it. Okay. And then I do a screenshot again and see what's happening. As you can see, nothing happened. But actually, the reason why it looks like nothing happened is because I didn't give enough time for the search itself to work. Because if you can see here, I click here, it doesn't happen immediately, right? So there's a bit of a delay. Natività. So let's do a search. You can see it works, right? So Webdriver has some ways to basically deal with this timeout. So first thing I need to do is to check for an element that I expect to show up in the next page. So in this page, there's an element I could search for, which would allow me to identify whether the page is already refreshed or not. So I know the new page is going to have a search results table, right? And I can find out what the ID of that search results is, and I can try and get this ID and then use it in our script. So what I can do here is WD find element by ID, and then this is the table. Okay. So let's see if this works. Okay. As you can see, it gave me an error saying there's no such element. The way to solve, to be honest, this is kind of normal, right? As you saw, the screenshot still shows that we haven't gone anywhere. So it's in the same place. So it's not surprising that the table is not there yet. So there is a bit of a delay. So what we can do in Webdriver, I can actually configure an implicit wait. So let's say we know that our search results might take up to 30 seconds to show up. So I can just do an implicit wait of 30. What that means? It means that when it tries to find any field, it doesn't fail immediately. It will wait up to 30 seconds to fail. So within the 30 seconds timeout, the page will have enough time to update. Of course, if the element shows up quicker than that, it will allow you to return the fields straight away. Okay, so let's try it again. So it still couldn't find the actual element. So maybe I made a mistake. Let me just find out. Okay, let me just check. So I copied this field here. Oh, I see. This is actually not an ID. This is the ID, but the only question I have in my mind is this ID always going to be changing. So I might not want to rely on this ID here, so I'm going to want to use this class name. So I need to use another method called class name. So find element by class name. And now I should have, well, I see that it didn't fail, it actually worked. So let's see the screenshot. So as you can see, the screenshot shows me the list of results. Okay, so I've gone up to the point where I now can already start thinking about using Panda data frames and BeautifulSoup. Okay, so I'm going to create another cell because I don't want to keep repeating this code because it's always doing a search and I don't want to overwhelm that server. Okay, so Panda data frame has if you have like a normal table with just text, right, you might want to first try and use Panda data frame read HTML function, right? First of all, I need to import a Panda data frame, the pandas library. Okay, and then now I can use Panda data frame to read HTML, and I can get the HTML from my last step, which is page source. And we can look how this data frame looks like, see if this is what we want. Okay, we get a lot of stuff here. In fact, if you actually notice, this page has more than one table. It doesn't have just one table. So we need to basically pick the right table, because this function here, read HTML, will not just return you one element, it will return you a list of tables in this case. So we can pick the right table. So let me try the first table. Make it so tables. then, for example, tables 1. Let's see if that's what we want. Okay, so it's not the table we want. Okay, anyway, so try this. So there's another table here. Anyway, we are getting all the tables, and I don't think this is very helpful. So I'm going to add a filter to basically only get the table that we want. And I already know the class name because we used it just now. So I'm going to pass in a list of attributes. And then I'm going to pass the class name of the table that I want. And we know the table name is tabella, okay? So there's no list anymore. So it's going to be a single table. I'm not sure if it's a list or not. I think it's only one, so it's going to have only index 0. Okay. As you can see, it's actually looking quite different from what we just saw. This is the actual right, as we see it, it looks like in the right order. So the third column is what we really want. The problem with the third column is that it doesn't seem to be able to pick up the HTML that's inside the column. So I can't see the image here. So this is why, unfortunately, I can't just use a Panda data frame. A Panda data frame in this case will be able to parse the HTML and read all the text in it, if there's any like normal text. But if you have something like an image or something a bit more complicated than that, then that isn't maybe a div or something like that, it will not be able to read it properly. So the solution for that is to actually add BeautifulSoup. So I'm going to add another cell, and then we use BeautifulSoup to parse the HTML table, and then we feed the table into the Panda data frame. To use BeautifulSoup, we basically have to import the library first. So once we have the library, then we can just instantiate. So soup equal to BeautifulSoup WD in this case, and then I get the page source. Table equal to soup. So I'm going to do the same thing I've done here for the Panda data frame, but instead of using the Panda data frame to search the table, I'm going to use the soup API. So soup.find, then I specify what kind of tag I'm looking for, in this case table. Then I pass in a list of attributes, similar to what I did for the Panda data frame. It's like a dictionary, this. Okay, so now, oh, I'm missing a U. So now I've been able to to find the table, and then once I have the table, what I can do is just print the table just to see what's going on. So you can see a bunch of HTML. It's a big table. All I want is the image URL and the origin, right? I don't care about the description so much. I care more about the picture, and I want to add my own metadata to it. So all I care is this image nativity or not. But this is something that I'm going to do later. I'm going to just scrape the data, create a CSV with all the URLs, and then later on I'll be able to delete anything that is not what I want. It's easier to delete, right? So let's just do this. So I need to transform this table into something that I can read in the, well, something that the Panda data frame can display. So the Panda data frame, there's many options to create a Panda data frame. I can create it from HTML, from CSV, from a JSON, and I also can create it from a list. So I'm going to create a list that I'm going to basically use to create my Panda data frame. So I'm going to call it table processed. Will be empty initially. Okay. So now I'm going to iterate through the table. So I'm going to iterate through each row in the table. So table dot find all. So each table has one or more rows, table rows. So I'm going to do a find all of, I'm going to find all the table rows inside the table, and then I'm going to iterate through them. You can see it's working. If I wanted to be with a bit, anyway, it has still a bunch of HTML. You can do .text if we just want a view of what the text is. Yeah. So for each row, I'm going to create another variable called row processed. So this is going to be my new row that I'm going to add to table underscore processed. So cells equal to row dot find all. So I need to iterate through all the columns in a table. Okay. As you can see, it still has a lot of HTML. So what I want is actually, first of all, I don't want the first row because the first row has actually the labels and I don't need that. So I'm going to exclude from the list of rows I'm processing, I'm going to exclude the first row, which is index 0. So this is basically, what's it called? It's a notation that allows me to specify what elements I want in the list. So I'm dropping the first element and taking everything else up to then. So this should return me everything except the first row, which is, if you look at this, the first row is going to be this one. I don't want the labels. So once I get rid of all the labels, then let me just make it easier to read. So you have the first element, doesn't have anything I want, so 0. Then you have the second element that doesn't have anything I want. In fact, even has a table inside it, which is not going to be something I want. So cell 0, this is the first cell. Not really needed. Cells 1. Index out of range, which means sometimes you don't have more than one element, because it works here, right? So I need to have a little bit of I need to check the length of the number of cells to make sure that they are bigger than 1. So that it doesn't throw an error. As you can see, it worked now. I still don't want this. Oh, it does have something here actually. Image source. Okay, so this is what I want actually. I can do find, see what it returns. So you see that even though it's an image, the cell number 1, yes, cell number 1 is the second cell. it's not what we want. So even though it looks like this one is a 0, it's actually cell number 1. So I'm going to ignore this one. Still not what I want. So I need to go. Okay, that seems to have an image, which is what I want. So the image itself, it's using only the relative path, which means if I add it here, it should, this is the image I want. It's actually it's not very high resolution image, to be fair. But anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add using the src attribute. Let's see if that works. Okay, you can see the URL, but I need to add the base path. So let's add this base URL. Okay. So you can see there's these URLs are valid now. Yeah. Okay. Right. So with this, I'm going to just add an extra value, which just for me to, when I merge this into a bigger data set from different origins, I want to know where this came from, right? So in case I need to exclude it. So that's why I'm adding an origin. So image origin. If I was able to actually get a URL for the image itself in a page with the image, I would put that instead. But in this case, I've noticed none of these images have an individual URL. So I just need to, my only option is to basically say, this is the page where it came from. But ideally, you know, if I clicked on this, it would show me another page, but it doesn't. What next? So now I have the origin. I'll just add to row process. So now I've added the image URL to the row. Now I can add the row to the table. So this should at the end give me a table with all the entries. I don't know why I did that, so I need to do dot append. Okay, you can see now I have a table. I have a list of rows which I can use to initialize my data frame. Yeah, first element is, the first column is the actual image URL, and the second one is the origin. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a name to the columns so I understand what they are for. So I'm going to call the first one image URL and the second one is going to be origin. What I'll do now is to basically create a Panda data frame from a list of records. From records, so I pass in the table, processed, cost, and then I specify the columns, which is why I created that variable just now. And now you can see what the data frame looks like. So you can see I've created the Panda data frame, something rather strange. It seems to have empty elements, and I think that's because so I'm only adding a row to the table if it has more than 3 cells. This here, and that it looks much better now. So we have image URL and the origin. it's actually quite helpful to visualize the image itself here in the notebook. With Panda data frames, you actually can do something very cool. So I can transform this into a table that will show me what the image looks like. So let's do that. You're going to have to create a function. So the function itself is going to transform a path from an image URL to an HTML image tag. So I'm just going to pass in. So I received the path, which is the image path. Let's call it image URL. It's easier to understand. So I will be given an image URL, then I will just return image source equal to, and then I can pass in also width, and I can make it like 120. I'm going to put single quotes around it, and that's it. I'm going to add f here because I want the parameters to be replaced. It's a convenient notation. So I have a method that will convert an image URL. I'm going to call it something else. URL to path HTML to image HTML. So this is going to convert the URL to an image HTML data frame dot to HTML. So escape equal to false. Formatters equal to dictionary, and then I pass in the column name that I want to format, and I'm going to pass in the method name, and of course this is going to generate an HTML, but this is not exactly great in the notebook itself, so we need to visualize it. So there is actually a library that you can use for the Python notebooks that allows you to basically display images or HTML, and I can do what? I can just pass in this inside an HTML tag. So you can see here that we now have a Panda data frame. We converted it to HTML, and now we can see the table here. From there, I can actually have a feel for what data I've extracted. I can see already that there's a few images I want to delete. Other than that, it looks good. I can see that I have 34 results. And what I'll do is convert the Panda data frame to CSV. So let's do that. So I'll take the data frame itself. It's called df. So I can just do a CSV. I can just call it to CSV, and I can give it a path name. So results.csv, something like that, and I should have it here. Look, so I can see that my Panda data frame is now converted to a CSV. I can download this, and then I can delete what I don't want to have based on the information here. That's all for now. Happy coding!